You're still watching Today with myself, Mfundo Mabalane. Now, the Matric results are coming out on the 20th of January. Many universities are preparing to welcome an influx of new first-year students. University South Africa Director of Operations, Meyer, joins us this afternoon to discuss the readiness of universities as we go into the new academic year. Good afternoon, Linda. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Honestly, how ready are universities to welcome the first years given the pandemic?
Universities have made a risk-adjusted strategy, so many of the programs are on standby in the distance mode, just to ensure that should the pandemic escalate in any manner, that universities would be able to operate. So we know that from the grade 12 results, that there will be approximately 375,000 students that will be eligible for higher education placement, and public universities will be able to absorb in the region of 240,000 of those students as first-year students into the university system that caters with public and private higher education for approximately 1.3 million students throughout the higher education sector.
And then in terms of the learning system, are we going to see a hybrid system this time around? How many universities have expressed that will, at least, to go that route?
So we know that 7 universities have instituted mandatory access vaccinations on site, and obviously it is preferable that students are on campus, that they are in class for the contact universities. But universities have prepared in a hybrid modality to ensure that if the eventuality occurs, that students, if the pandemic takes a trajectory that negatively impacts on the number of students that can be in a classroom, that they are able to accommodate those students. So we have seen that for many of the programs, some of the universities have had to use print media during the pandemic because this is what was most conducive to their student population. We must remember that many of our students, almost 70% of our students, come from SASSA households, and even if we give them devices, it doesn't mean that they have access to electricity or that where they live, they have access to data or network within the areas that they live. So we really need to ensure that our students are supported on campus as far as possible to ensure that they're able to re-embrace the academic year.
No, most certainly. But that vaccine mandates conversation is a very topical one and could possibly see the commencement of the new academic year delayed, because we've already heard of some student bodies that are looking to oppose the mandates and actually, in fact, take to the streets. Are universities prepared for this?
For the 7 universities that have implemented the mandate, they have made the necessary contingency arrangements and the risk-adjusted strategies should that be an eventuality. We are, however, encouraging all students to get vaccinated so that the issue doesn't really mar in the issue of not getting vaccinated. SARS themselves are pro-vaccination. It is never ideal to force anyone to get a vaccine against their will. And we hope that we can have advocacy campaigns and that we can convince students that this really is the best course of action. Of course, there are staff and students that have comorbidities where this simply is not an option, and universities are doing absolutely everything within their power to ensure that they can accommodate these students, be it in online learning, be it by studying within university campuses in specific areas, or be it that staff are allocated a particular private office with N95 masks. Universities are actively having these discussions with their stakeholders, and these decisions are made at council level after extensive consultation with respective stakeholders.
And then beyond universities' readiness, you remain a very important institution with very important projects such as the Transformation Project of Public Universities, your Open Access Project, and the Rural Campus Connection Project, which talks to our earlier conversation on connectivity, etc. Just talk to me about the progress insofar as these projects are concerned.
In terms of the rural access project that we had, we were in partnership with Tenet, and we are very happy to announce that that project in the final phase in November was concluded. So all of our rural university campuses now have broadband access on campuses for staff and students.
Wonderful.
So far as the transformation agenda, we, as you know, and thank you for raising that, we are actively busy with ensuring that universities, with the Department of Employment and Labour, with sector codes to ensure that the transformation agenda is primarily driven. We've already seen a huge transformation in terms of our student population, where 77.3% of our population is now Black African students, 11.7% of the students are white, just on 6% are coloured, and just under 4% of our student population are Asian. So certainly we have a number of initiatives to ensure that we address this. A lot of work still needs to be done in terms of the academic component of staff within universities. We are confident that we have made significant inroads with compliance with administrative staff, but this is a process that is ongoing. We are running projects with the Department of Higher Education and Training, including the Future Professors Program, ensuring that future talent in terms of our Black academics are identified and that we support them exponentially in terms of achieving the advancement of the academic genre of professorship and so forth.
Linda, how important is this transformation project in the higher learning institutions? Because some seem to think, you know what, you don't need to politicize the higher learning space. You need to allow it to be a space of learning and leave the politics outside. How important is the transformation agenda in this space?
Transformation agenda is critical because we must remember that we're moving from a basis of colonized education. So we need to really work on decolonizing education and creating space. So when we speak about the transformation agenda, there's many components to it. One, for example, is the language policy that the DHET has now instituted that will allow academics and students to study within an African language within their institutions, but also to publish and to be recognized in the languages that we then create an enabling environment for. So when we speak about decolonizing education and the transformation agenda, it's not just about quotas, it's not just about changing that, it's about changing mindsets, it's about changing and enabling policy frameworks to ensure that as Black academics advance and the discourse around academic agendas are engaged with, that we don't sit with a colonized and entrenched academic constituency that is not representative and reflective of the demographic composition of the South African nation. We must ensure that an important component is international voices, but we must ensure that we reflect demographically what our society is, what our values are, and in terms of our ethics and accountability, to ensure that Black academics are given the rightful space so that they can advance within the higher education framework.
Right. No, Linda, thank you very much for that. That was University of South Africa's Linda Meyer. Well, up next.